you had to, what we would do in order to make money, we would take milk bottles and bring them back to the store. Get 5 cents off a large bottle, 2 cents off a small bottle. There was a pile of bottles that was way down on by Varick Street down there where you see the brownstone restaurant now. And we used to go down there and sort out all the beer bottles and put them in a big bag, wash them up, take them to the beer store, get 2 cents off them, 5 cents off a large bottle of beer, small bottle of beer. My father was against us going around liquor bottles to bring them back, but he was working 2 jobs, so he didn't see us, and we were pretty obedient as far as, doing what we had to do. We stuck very close together and did it the best we could as a family. They knew everybody knew all the way up to 22. You mess with the mazes, you're gonna see all of them. We're gonna stick together. We're gonna fight together. My sister Lady and Booty, they beat up Missy's friends. So Missy wasn't much of a fighter.
So your sisters beat up boys?
Huh?
Your sisters beat up
They
boys?
beat men. They would beat men. Booty and Lady. Lady was a ferocious fighter. She was quiet. Lady was on the honor roll, but you didn't get her mad. You didn't get Lady mad. Because she'll hook one of us, that Lady was like that. And later on in life, you think her as the mildest person you know. The Lady hook you up. Nunny was a tomboy fighter. Nunny could beat anybody. Man, woman, whatever. It didn't make no difference what you was. You act up with Nunny. We had a pretty good family. We had a lot of beautiful times. We had the high school field right next to us where we used to watch when they played football, there was a black football team called the Vikings. And you go over and see the Vikings play against all the white teams. Allentown from the Sip Tigers. And there was a fence on the high school field where we would run and hit that fence. And if we get underneath the stands, when people jumped up and cheered, money came down underneath the stands. That's how we used to go down there and find a lot of money. Sometimes you crawl down underneath that thing, crawl right into a turd. But we had a good time. But like I said, we were barricaded in. We wasn't accepted. And especially with the Mays family, they said, and the police used to catch us with the other black kids, and we go to church or something like that. They say, "What's your mother, Puerto Rican? What are y'all, Spicks? Y'all don't look like the rest of them around here. What are y'all supposed to be?" But anyway, we made it anyway.
Let's fast forward a little bit. Can you recall like your life as you started to pass over into being a man? What are some of the things you remember?
Well, as we started growing up, we started finding out that we had to have, at that time, you had to have groups. If we went out to 22 Lafayette section, they had a group out there called the Gents. They wanted to jump us. So we had a basketball team. At first, that basketball team, we called it the El Quinos because it was five. In Quinto meant, Cinco meant five. So we took that name. It became Lochos del Quinto. And at first I had took the name Don Diablo Real, which was the Royal Devil. You know, and that's the name I took. I was the war counselor. I was the one that, when it step up, I could pull out my blade and work on anybody that act up with us. So it got somewhere. They didn't mess with the family because they knew that I cut them. So that got to be my syndrome. Don't mess with the mazes, but he'll cut you. And we made it. When we became the El Quinos, I became the warlord. The policemen, they knew my father. My father was a number writer. And he was a Kenny. He was a Democrat committee man, headed the project. At that time, a committee man could get you a job in any department of the city. His man won the election. He can get you more jobs than a maid can get you now, look like. You know, I mean, so we were raised up with politics, and we was also raised up religiously. My father was a Bible man, and he used to always say to me, "You're the smartest kid I got. What's your motive?" What do you mean, what's my motive? What's your motive? I used to always say that. I said, why you always ask me what's my motive? He said, 'cause that's what counts. And I found out later on in life, I became a Muslim. And I read in the Quran where they said, your most valuable asset is your niyyah, your intention, your motive. And I mean, you know, I found that out later on.
When let's go a little bit more personal. What was your relations with women? You know, when did that come into play in your life?
Early. We would go to parties, grind up on girls in the party, and so you know I had a son at 16 years old from Yvonne. The lady you know is Miss Servance, but Servance was my girlfriend at the time that I knocked Yvonne up.
Did that happen dancing on the wall? Did that happen dancing on the wall?
Well, you know, we get that later on. Yvonne was, she was minding the kids upstairs, Miss Ellis's children. and they lived on the top floor over the top of us. And I go up there and get some. And Loach was born.
How did that work out with him being born?
Well, that didn't work out because it wasn't a thing where I really had her as a girlfriend. So I was pitching on the mound for Grace Church. I was a pitcher. And I looked up and my father came to the field, took me off the mound, brought me down to City Hall, got a marriage license, brought me back home, got in touch with Yvonne's parents. I got married that same day.
So your father guided you to marry her because
That's just what you had to do. It was nothing else. You man enough to make a baby, yeah. In there. During that time when you went to school, you couldn't stay in school if you had a baby.
was that the father or the mother that couldn't stay in school?
Neither one.
And what year was that he was born?
Loach was born, 16, so you figure that 39, around 55 or so, something like that.
What year were you born? 1939?
Yeah.
Okay.
So once you became a father of your first son, what did you do? Did you
Well, they told me I had to leave school, so I went up to the city hall. My father being the committee man, he gave me a job in the Jersey City Medical Center in the laundry. So I had a job in the laundry. I was starting quarterback for the Lincoln football team. So I had to leave the team that year. And I went to accredited Evening High School the same year. I didn't miss no time in school. And I graduated.
So you were working and going to school at the same time?
Yeah, I went to school at night, 6 to 10. I worked in the morning from 8 to 4. And
Did you guys live together? You and Yvonne, did they make you live together too?
we had a short tenure, like I said.
But that money went to your child.
Excuse me?
That money you made working at medical center, it went to your child.
Well, I went to, they took me in and waived my age and gave me an apartment in Lafayette. I lived in apartment 642 over 505 Grand Street. I had an apartment there, and I let her stay there with the baby. I was heading for city.
What do you mean? You was at
I was heading for the city. I was heard about Malcolm X, and I was dealing marijuana and hashing. So I couldn't deal around my parents in Jersey City, so I went to Harlem. That's why I became Jack Maldonado. When I became Jack Maldonado, I started dealing in 145th Street and Lenox Avenue. And I did most of my dealing there, and I didn't stay home.
You didn't have any like static over there, like with the New York guys, like being a.
I packed
Packed what?
32.
So it wasn't like it is now, like people own blocks or anything. Did they say anything to you about coming from Jersey to go to New York and sell drugs?
Well, I wasn't gonna sell drugs around my parents, my father. So I sold drugs in New York. When I came back to Jersey, I was Louis Mays. When I went to New York, when I got busted in New York, chopped miles an hour. That's why I ain't got no record in New York at Louis Mays.
Was it worth it? Like, did you make good money doing what you were doing?
Well, older women took to me. They took to me and they started, turn me into a little drug dealer pimp. They took me in the house. And they also took me in the house because they was like hookers. And they brought white men in the house, took their business with them. They needed somebody to keep them from getting robbed. That was me. And people knew that if they showed up in that apartment, I was gonna bust a cap in their ass. I was young. They called me Jersey Sport. And so I just went on with that. I came back to Jersey City. I came in my house. And there was a big party in my house. And I walked past the kitchen and I looked in there. I said to Yvonne, what is going on here? I left this house for you and the baby. I didn't just want no goddamn party. And the baby was taken care of. Loaf was taken care of. I paid the rent. I brought money back for food. But I wasn't home 2 or 3 months at a time. Because like I told you, I was staying with you ladies and they had me in there, they had me for sex and they had me for protect the house and whatever. And that was my particular job. And so Vaughn comes out the kitchen and she says to me, you ain't never home, so I got me somebody. I said, all right. No problem. So I said, everybody out the fucking house. Everybody, they didn't mess with me. This is my house too. I just shut the fuck up. Everybody out. You all heard me? Everybody went out. I was walking back toward the room, and when I was walking back toward the room, she evidently went in the kitchen and got a great big kitchen knife. And she took the kitchen knife, came after me, and she took the kitchen knife. She swung it at me. I grabbed the arm, twisted behind her back, and I twisted arm behind her back. She had the knife in this hand, and she reached back with this hand and she grabbed the blade. And when I twist the knife out of her hand got cut. And she ran next door and she had told a woman I cut her. And the ambulance came, and the police came, and her uncles, they was supposed to be bad too. Mickey, he was the first one in. I hooked him in the head with the butt of the 32. Knocked him down a flight of stairs. And